Hey kids, Nick from English 102 here. Today's video is about homelessness in the grand city of Tempe, Phoenix. And this stick for me is here to peel back some of the nastiness involving the problem. Before we start, let me take a sec to field some questions here. Have you ever wondered how much your city gives a crap about people living on the streets? Have you ever heard of terms slung around by your local mayor like $1.03 million invested in aid, or 123 tons of debris cleared by our volunteers, while passing the usual swath of poor homeless people on your way to school? If so, you might just be living in the wonderful city of Tempe, a city with a homeless problem and a floundering government PR to prove it. But Nick, I can already hear you asking, how did this become such a big problem in the first place? Can't we just not deal with this until my city also becomes Skid Row by 2050? The answer, my dear pupils, lies in the history of homelessness in Phoenix. You see, starting in the 1940s, Phoenix began a series of explosive attempts to gentrify and modernize its once rural and tourist-like vibes. This left many workers and their families behind following each surge, most notably in 2013. This was when Silicon Valley Bank set up their back-end operations building in Tempe, as well as GM, the guy who owns four major car companies, building an IT innovation center in Chandler a year later. All this modernization uprooted local businesses and services, which often meant that for every Jiffy Lube that went up, some guy's auto shop went out of business and left the owner out of a job. Which brings us to the present. Oh, how glad we are to be living today in such a prosperous, albeit corona-cated era. So anyways, a couple middle-class folks got stabbed in Tempe earlier this year, and it happened to be by, wait for it, a homeless guy. This event lit a big fire under Tempe City Council, and days after news report went out and public outrage was hitting its peak, the city came out with some spicy statistics, facts, and knowledge to ensure us simpletons that they figured everything out and it's going to be all okay. Nonetheless, the buzz that this attack caused sent a ripple effect all throughout Phoenix's civilians and government bigwigs. So what does Tempe do about it? Nothing, besides continuing to enforce some of the most Neanderthal high school principal level rulings in the whole country. For instance, Phoenix currently stands as the only area in Arizona that enforces a public sleeping ban. Basically, cops are driving around. If they see someone in a public space, they're indicted, executed, then sent to the slammer. This seems like an obvious rule for most people, right? Keep people off the streets. The poor soul don't get stepped on or rolled over, for Christ's sake. But this rule applies to every square foot of public space in Phoenix. So let's say you're one of Tempe's homeless individuals or family in, I don't know, the summer. Who knows? Let's say you went to Vegas one too many times, bounced a few loans, sprinkled a drinking problem, and bam, all of a sudden it's 8 p.m., the sun is setting, and you've got one of two options. Option one, participate in a sleeping charade at one of the homeless shelters in Phoenix, all of which are overcrowded and past max capacity right now. If you're lucky enough to find a spot, you better be sure to remember earplugs, because uh, you'd better bet that the corral of crying babies, drugged out crazies, and bustle of others trying to find a spot will be sure to keep you up. Of course, you'll have to also be able to tolerate the sauna-like vibe in there, since they rarely have air conditioning or even adequate ventilation, which peaks during the summer. But taking off a jacket or even shoes would be a bad call, since if by some miracle you're able to sleep at all in there, you'll definitely wake up without it. Once you give up and head back outside, any place you'll end up passing out, whether it's in a dumpster at the edge of Phoenix or in the middle of Millen University, you'll be processed with the same public sleeping charge, which ruins our option number two as well. Brings me to the money that's dealing with the problem. In the past, the city of Tempe has echoed the same promise to the public every time some homeless-related PR incident unfolds. We promise to invest $1.03 million towards our homeless situation in the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Charitable Saints, aren't they? Yeah, well, let's say their budget to aid the homeless is this perfectly average 5.5-inch tall 12-ounce glass of water. This glass of water, representing their capital budgets, would be over 1,000 inches tall, and their total budget for the fiscal year could be over 4,000 inches tall. Or for the humans in the room, that's about 3 giraffes and a Statue of Liberty taller than our regular 5.5-inch tall glass of water that represents the aid that they give homeless people. So here's the thing. There's actually a way for this sticky situation to unscrew itself up in the most idiot-proof way possible. All the Tempe's government has to do is convince the money movers that Tempe's homeless problem needs more financial stimulation. Then they can just dump that money into any of the dozens of fantastic, effective, and egregiously underfunded third-party organizations that have come to fruition due in part to the city's fake management of the problem. Gold Star performers include groups such as the Homeless Outreach Prevention Effort, or HOPE, and the Phoenix Rescue Mission. So guess what? You can help with this abhorrent disgrace upon common decency and the Geneva Conventions by writing a letter to City Tempe Council, voicing your thoughts, and saying that good old Nick from English 102 sent you. Or better yet, you can provide direct support to either of the homeless support groups actually helping Tempe's homelessness crisis, donating using the links in the description below. Until then, this is Nick, signing out.